How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the workshop. Today I thought I'd demonstrate how you construct the Mk.2 Towns guillotine tool. Now, this is an improved design over the last design, though it shares most of the standard features. And I'll go through what improvements we made as we go. This is how the tool will show up to your door should you buy the basic kit. It is the guillotine tool itself, the frame, laser cut in flat pack form, your 3 dies and your 3 corresponding bottom dies. As standard, the 3 main dies are a set of flat dies, a set of fullering dies, and a set of 45-degree butcher dies. I can customize them to whatever you want. You just need to contact me directly to get me to make those dies custom. The dies are 90 millimeters by 13 millimeters, or approximately ½ inch by 4 inch. In cross section, so anything that will fit those dies I'm happy to customize. I'm just going to put these aside. These are made out of SUP 9 or 5160, and they are differentially hardened, as you can see, so that this area remains in its factory annealed state. So there's not going to be any risk of fracturing, but you're still going to get a nice hard working face that's not going to deform over time. Now, the main body comes as a kit with 4 of the triangular supports. Just put those to the side. The base plate, the 2 side straps, and the 2 main frame sides. It's a fairly simple construction, but I'm going to go through how I construct one because this one has been ordered constructed rather than flat packed, which is not normally a service I offer unless the person who is purchasing doesn't have welding capabilities. I'm not a professional welder, so I can't guarantee my constructions, which is why I don't like to offer that service. But in this case, I'm happy to do it. And our first concern is the base plate. We have a hole in the base plate to allow us to affix the shank, which will go into our hardy hole, from the top without having a weld around this perimeter of the shank, increasing the profile and the footprint of the shank, which means it may not fit in the hardy hole. In our case, the customer has ordered a 20 millimeter square shank, so I'm going to go get myself a piece of 20 mil. I'm going to come back and plug weld this in from the top. So we have our 20 millimeter shank, and we have our base plate. Now I do recommend that you degrease your parts. I don't normally supply them oiled because they are going to be welded, but just in case there is any oil or any residue on them, if you degrease them, then that's going to not inhibit your welds as much. So we're just going to tack this in place. And then I'll do a full weld to secure it. Okay, so now that we have the shank firmly secured, we can now affix the side plates. Now these are tabbed through so you can weld them from the bottom, but I also would advise putting maybe a tack on the front just to make sure that they're actually secure in the end. You want to try and keep them as square as possible because adjusting them after they're welded in place is a little bit difficult. So what I'll do is just put a tack in place. And then we can see if it's square. And we'll just flush that up with an angle grinder afterwards. And the best way to check square, if you don't have a square on hand, is to utilize the actual frame and make sure that it sits properly. See, there we go. And that actually squares it up for us. All right, so I'll weld both side plates in place, and then we'll get onto the frames. Okay, so the two side plates are tacked in place, and now we have the main frame slotted on. It's a little bit of a tight fit because they did splay a little bit in the welding, but all I do is just put them onto the bottom and then rotate it into place, squeezing them together. And sometimes it's a little fiddly. You can make this a little bit easier on yourself, and I could have done it to myself as well, is weld the two tabs to the main frame before doing this part, but I found this part a little bit easier this way because I can use the tension to hold it in place. Just make sure it's all tapped into place. Now what we don't want to do is weld in here because that's where the triangle is going to fit. So we're going to weld tops and sides. And we're only going to tack it at this stage. There we go. And that'll just hold it in place while we tack on the other. Okay, so with the two main plates tacked in place, we can now weld on our supports. It's pretty simple. They just slot in like that, and then all you do is weld them tip and bottom, and then they're done. You can put a little tack in there as well, which I probably will as well, just to make sure that they don't move. We'll come back when it's all assembled. Just as security, I like to weld inside the channel just to make sure that these flanges don't try and bow out under use. I've fully welded the rest of the frame, as you can see, so it's all nice and solid, but this is just an extra bit of security to make sure that this frame stays together forever. Yep. I'll do that both sides on both sides of the tool. Now I'm just going to use a 60 grit flat disc on my angle grinder, just clean these grinds up on the bottom. That's all that's needed. She's ready to rock. You leave it as is because it'll eventually rust and wear in anyway. But because it's going to a customer, I'm just going to give it a good all over scrub. Get off all of those weld spatters and make it look a little bit better. And if you wanted to, for longevity, you could oil it, you know, coat it in a thin coat of WD-40 or something like that. It won't be too much of a risk to you as a blacksmith, but it'll stop it from rusting so fast. Yeah, we'll clean it up and then I'll show you how it's used. There we go, the finished guillotine tool. Now, with the dies, obviously you drop the bottom die in first. Right, you can drop it in any orientation. To lift it out, you just grab it and pull it up. It's actually designed, these bottom dies being small as they are, will get quite hot after working lots of hot metal. So in that case, you just pick up the guillotine tool and you can tip the bottom die out. And that saves you having to try and pick it up with your fingers, which can be quite painful. So you can put it in any orientation, and then you just simply choose the top die you want, and it just slots in like that. The front ends of the dies are radiused, so that it won't bite the sides of the guillotine tool. And the tolerances are such that there is a little bit of play, but you get a nice smooth action. This top will eventually mushroom over time, and that's why the radius is there. It allows for, even when working thin stock, even after a while when this mushrooms out, it won't stop the die from working. Obviously you can always grind those sides off if you need to, or reforge that into its section if need be. But to change out dies, all you need to do, lift the old die out, pop it up, whoops, I make it sound easier than it is. Put your next die in, select your corresponding die, and you're ready to go. So hopefully that's been a decent demonstration of its work. And there were a few people who asked me what it was used for. Those of you who are blacksmiths will know, but those of you who don't, it is for use with hot material. This is just a piece of, this is my scribe, this is a piece of old file. But under heat, you can use it when struck to create impressions on both sides of, you know, whether it's fullering dies or butchering dies, for creating tenons, for creating offsets, for creating the tang shoulders on the knives. It's used for various tasks, but it's an incredibly handy piece of equipment to have in your workshop because it acts as a third hand for those of you who work alone, like myself. And it can also add transitions and stuff like that that even with a striker are difficult to do. So hopefully you got some information out of this. Hopefully you're interested in the Mk.2. I have a few available at the moment through direct message, and I will be stocking them on my Etsy store regularly in the future. So please feel free to let me know if you'd be interested in one of these. I will have all the links for it down in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys. And before we go, I'd like to thank my wonderful patrons who I'm going to put up on screen here somewhere for keeping me going. I know I've been very quiet recently, but I've been trying to organize things for the business, like the guillotine tools. And these guys have been massively supportive and very patient with me. So a massive shout out to them. And thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon to be notified of when I upload a new video, because I'm planning on uploading a lot more in the future. That being said, guys, I hope you have a fantastic week. I will see you on Saturday with a live stream. Bye.